What happens when you mix a pandemic with a rational national that has Trump derangement syndrome? I'll answer that on the next Political Frequencies.
You know, you go into major hospitals sometimes, they'll have two ventilators, and now all of a sudden they're saying, can we order 30,000 ventilators?
So, President Donald Trump appears to think this is just about over. This pandemic, who cares? You got to get back to work. Ventilators, who cares? You don't need them. This interview on Sean Hannity's show on Fox News, I mean, it really shows you the one person you do not want to be in control right now during a pandemic is in control right now during a pandemic.
Okay. To start out, it's obvious that this guy is severely impacted by TDS. I actually subscribe to his channel. I've watched him for a couple of years on and off. I don't watch all of his videos, but I do watch them occasionally, and generally I like him. I think he's an intelligent guy, a good person, etc. I'm not going to attack him personally, but the level of Trump derangement he has is pretty incredible, and it's illustrated very nicely in this video he did, which I'm going to go through and talk about the various pieces as he goes through his rant about Trump. So the first thing is on the ventilators, and he talks more about it, and so will I. But the 20,000 ventilators, 40,000 ventilators, whatever the number actually was, 20 to 40,000, is of course ridiculous when you look at it per hospital. Depending on how you count them, there's roughly 5,000 hospitals in the country. If every hospital asked for 20,000 ventilators, which by the way, each ventilator, depending on the kind you get, can support two people, with some modifications vis-a-vis 3D printing, you can turn a two-person ventilator into a four-person ventilator. So again, if every hospital got 20,000 ventilators, we would have the capacity to for about 2 billion people. Last I checked, America has 330 million people, and not everybody's going to get the virus, so I'm pretty sure we won't need 2 billion ventilators. It's really incredible, and Trump never said that people don't need ventilators and get back to work, and it's completely ridiculous. But let's continue.
So let me play this clip for you. Emma Viglin's response here is spot on. Oh my God is correct. Listen to this.
I don't believe you need 40,000 or 30,000 ventilators. You know, you go into major hospitals sometimes, they'll have two ventilators, and now all of a sudden they're saying, can we order 30,000 ventilators? So, look, it's a very bad situation. We haven't seen anything like it. But the end result is we got to get back to work, and I think we can start by opening up certain parts of the country, Farm Belt, certain parts of the Midwest, other places, but I think that, as an example, you go to Texas. There are places in Texas, great governor, Greg Abbott. There are places in Texas where, it's a tremendously big state that aren't impacted by this. So I think we can open up sections, quadrants, and then just keep them going until the whole country is opened up. But we have to open up. The people want to get back to work. They want to get back. That's the way we're engineered.
All right. I mean, what do you say? This is Donald.
Again, what do you say? Oh, God, it's just so frustrating to have to listen to Donald Trump because he's so stupid and I'm so smart. Unbelievable, David. Unbelievable. There are parts of the country that have, as far as we know, very little infection.
He's completely insane. Let me show you, just give you context here to some of the stuff he was talking about. So when it comes to ventilators, yeah, you need more ventilators now because more people need them. It's a fucking pandemic. Do you understand?
I don't remember Trump saying we don't need more ventilators. I do remember him saying that we don't need 30,000 ventilators per hospital. I think that's what he was implying. I think that's pretty clear if you listen to it without the sort of cloud of TDS over you. Frustration.
So this isn't just words. Like, this is real world actions he's taking. Look at this. White House cancels GM joint venture to mass produce ventilators over fears its price tag could exceed $1 billion, or 0.05% of latest stimulus bill. So when it comes to handing massive corporations a ton of cash, perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine to bail out, Carnival Cruises. But when it comes to actually producing ventilators that people need to live, oh no, $1 billion or 0.05% of the stimulus bill. Too much money. Too much money. How completely insane is this?
Right. So let me show you something about GM and Trump. This is from 3 hours ago, probably 4 hours ago now. And by the way, this is the 30th of March, so it's a couple days after the Irrational National posted the video. The bottom line is, go through and read the whole article. You can certainly do that. It's on Auto Blog, so it's a blog that's specific to the auto industry. It's not a political blog, although it's hard to say anything isn't a political blog at this point. But basically what this article says in summary is that GM was intending to essentially rape hospitals for the ventilators. And so what Trump did was, as you heard from the Irrational National, Trump said, nah, I'm not going to spend that kind of money. It's too much. Well, because it is too much. Because we can't let corporations further rape us. I do agree that we gave them too much money. It's another bailout, another series of bailouts, which I can't stand. Capitalism is supposed to have those kind of companies fail and go away, and they'll be replaced by new companies. GM, by the way, makes most of its cars in China. So I have no respect at all for GM. And neither does Trump, and I get it. GM is an awful company. But let's get back to the video. You can see that, again, this guy doesn't have a clue how this stuff works. It's called negotiation. I know it's a little hard to understand when you live in your apartment and make videos, but if you had a job in the real world, you would probably have a slightly better understanding of how all this works. Back to the video.
And he's telling people to get back to work during this. So watch this. This is actually a fantastic timeline here, and also day by day it evolves. They add to it every day. So if you go back to this link, it's a BBC News link. You can see the U.S. slowly, see they're down here right now, slowly make their way up, and then it's going to explode near the end of the month here. So we're getting to it now. Look at that. It's going up, going up. And guess where the U.S. ends up? On top at the very end.
Okay, there are so many things wrong with this, and I've been seeing this all over left-wing media. Jim Acosta talked about how you could tell he was proud of the fact that America's number one in terms of coronavirus infections. Notice how China isn't on the list. And of course, anybody with any brain cells at all knows that you can't believe anything China says. They're a freaking communist party. Look at Chernobyl. Watch that movie if you want to get a sense of how communist parties work or don't work. It's just ridiculous. But to pick apart this silly, ridiculous graphic, he's comparing America, which has 330 million people, give or take, to countries like Italy, which has 60 million, or Spain, 47 million, Germany, 84 million, Iran, about 84 million, France, 65 million, etc. Really, if you want to make a comparison, let's compare the United States to the EU. And I'll just pull out the EU countries that are on this list that are in, I guess, what, the top 10. Um, Again, the United States has 331 million people. According to this video, March 26th, there was 89,000 people infected, which works out to a percentage of 0.02%. So a relatively small percentage. Obviously, it's going to increase. However, if we compare that to Europe, to the countries that make up this graph, there is 320 million people. So basically the same size as America, except they have 241,000 cases of coronavirus, which works out to be about 0.07%. So 3.5 times more infections in Europe, in the big countries in Europe, than in America. Do you think he would consider that? Nah, because it doesn't fit his narrative, Orange Man bad. So I feel sorry for people that listen to people like this. It's really unfortunate. It really, really is. But let's get on to the rest of the ridiculous video.
And Trump wants people to go back to work. Does he understand how this spreads? You can't just return to normal. If people go back to work, all you're doing is reigniting it. You're making more people get it. You're continuing the process of this virus spreading. The way to end it is to keep people home now, and the people that already have it, hopefully get over it, and don't infect more people. And then you stomp it out that way. You don't stomp it out by exposing more people to the virus.
Okay, again, more idiocy. It's a virus that can't be stopped. At least not through social distancing and staying in your apartment, etc. When you got to go out and get food and so on. You have to live. You can't stay in your apartment or your house forever. You have to go outside at some point. And at some point, the virus will infect essentially everybody on the planet. Just like the flu does, just like chickenpox does, or did, measles, etc. Until you get two things, you can't stomp it out. One is a vaccine. The second is, in the short term, a therapy, which, by the way, it looks like what Trump said a week ago, that the media jumped all down his throat and wanted him taken off the air. The qualine, hydroxyqualine, or whatever the name of the drug was, coupled with an antibiotic, azithromycin, I think. Turns out they're having great success with that. So much so that the FDA now approved it for secondary use. So in other words, it can be used for the coronavirus. So we may in fact have a therapy. We don't have a vaccine. We won't have one for probably months. But we will have, it looks like we're going to have at least one viable therapy. We'll probably end up with more than one because obviously this is being worked on all around the world. But to suggest that the right answer to stomping out the virus is to stay in your apartment is, of course, completely ridiculous. The best that you can do is slow it down. That's the best you can do. Flatten the curve, as everybody is saying. And, of course, there should be some reasonable approach to how we deal with this. But telling everybody to stay locked up in their house and apartment for, 8 weeks is, frankly, it's insane. And you can't do it. It's impossible to do it unless you're going to have all your food delivered. It's just ridiculous. And by the way, you want to have money because you're not working. And the government, I don't care if it's Canada who's giving people a couple grand or America that's giving people $1,200, whatever. It's a weird scenario how people are getting money and how long they're going to get it, etc. But the bottom line is people aren't going to have enough money. Not in Canada, not in the United States, not anywhere in the world. No government can subsidize its entire population for months. It just cannot happen. There's only one country, maybe two in the world that have any chance at all of doing that. That's America, because, we have the currency, the global currency, and maybe China, maybe Japan. However, I doubt it. I don't even think America can do it. So the whole stomping out the virus by staying at home is ridiculous. We have to find therapies, and then we have to start opening the country, and then eventually we get a vaccine and people get vaccinated. The whole vaccinated thing is a whole nother story. I won't go into it here, but that's realistically the only way we're going to deal with it. Slowing down the curve is a reasonable thing to try to do, but killing the country, killing the world to slow down the spread, there's the curves meet pretty early, and at some point you do more destruction than you do good. But this guy can't see that because, again, he's so clouded by his TDS.
Let me show you an actual leader. Here is Bernie Sanders responding to Trump's idea that people should get back to work, go to church, all that crap. Watch this.
All right, I can't. I've listened to this video a few times. I can't listen to Bernie again. Bernie's an idiot. Bernie's pretty much always been an idiot. I didn't know it 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I thought he was a decent person up until he got behind Hillary Clinton and said, you got to vote for her because she's the best. He's just a piece of shit. And he's proven it this election more than ever. He didn't fight. He let millions of people down, mostly young people that have contributed lots of money to him, money they probably don't have contributed parts of their spirit to him. And what's he do? He shits all over them. That's what he does. He is a piece of shit. I can't stand Bernie Sanders anymore. But let me show you a real leader. Here's a real leader. This guy, real leader, Bernie is. How many bills has Bernie Sanders passed? Let's see. Bernie Sanders never owned a business, never invented anything, never had a 9-to-5 job. You can verify all this, by the way. I already have. Never proposed a single bill that passed. 25 years in office. Lived off welfare before he was elected to office. 74 years old, net worth $300,000. I actually think it's more than that. This is not current because we know he got a lot of money when he endorsed Hillary 4 years ago. Got himself a new lake house. And I guess this time he's maybe looking for a mountain house or something. Says he can fix healthcare and the economy, wants to be president. Just like his hero, Karl Marx, who succeeded at nothing. That's absolutely true. So, of all the bills Sanders sponsored, we have the following breakdown. 357 introduced by Sanders. 190 were considered by committee. 12 were considered by the floor. This is a hierarchy, by the way. 1 failed one chamber, 6 passed one chamber, 3 passed both chambers, went to the president and became law. So essentially 3 things got passed, and they were all happened in basically 2013 and 14 under Obama. In 2006, as you can see right down here, he got a really big bill passed, H.R. House Resolution 5245, which by the way isn't a bill, it's a resolution, to designate the facility of the United States Postal Service located 1 Marble Street in Fairhaven, Vermont, as the Matthew Lyon Post Office Building. Became law in August 2006. That's your leader. He got a post office building renamed. That's the best he did in 25 years of being either a representative or a senator. Bernie is a piece of shit, and people that follow him are getting screwed. It's unfortunate, but it's true. And I'm not a Trump supporter, by the way. I can't stand what's going on with this bullshit that all these people are posting every single day. Before this virus, I wouldn't have noticed this. But now that I'm stuck at home, because it's best, I'm noticing these idiots with their perpetual attacks on Trump and the Republicans. Democrats good, Republicans bad, Orange Man bad. Nancy Pelosi, she's so wonderful. She can't even utter a full sentence, let alone can construct a bill. And the great thing is this CARES, whatever it is we just passed, $10 billion worth of bailout, which is really what it is when you look at it. She held it up twice and said, well, we're going to be coming out with our bill, which was a 1,400-page bill. How long do you think they were working on that? Do you think that was only a couple weeks of work? I guarantee you they were working on that bill for a long time, well before they knew that the virus was was going to spread to the United States and the world and take the complexion it took. But yet they produced a 1,400 page bill in just 2 weeks. Yeah, okay. Enough said. Let's move on. Listen to more of this ridiculous bullshit.
The president yesterday talked about seeing light at the end of the tunnel, wanted packed churches for Easter. Do you see a light at the end of the tunnel? I mean, I think back to, I think it was November of 1967, General Westmoreland talking about, light at the ends of tunnels and the war dragged on for many years after that.
I said I wasn't going to make you watch this, and I'm not. I am going to skip the rest of it. But there is one point here. Anderson Pooper. Yeah. He's telling us about Vietnam, which I don't even think he was born during Vietnam. I'm pretty sure he wasn't. But he remembers back to when Westmoreland said, oh, there's light at the end of the tunnel. He remembers back. Or maybe it's his producer spewing that shit in his ear and he just repeats it because he doesn't have a brain in his head. And by the way, his actual name is Vanderbilt. He's a multi-billionaire. Ridiculous. But let's keep listening to Anderson Pooper. He'll give us the truth.
Yeah. You have a president that isn't listening to science, even though Trump has all the resources at his disposal to listen to the experts in every field. And what does he do? Thinks for himself, which is never a good thing. Thinks for himself and just thinks people got to get back to work. And the reality is he's not just thinking for himself. He's listening to the business people that are in his ears as well, that also think, you know what, potential short-term gains in the stock market, that's better than long-term benefit for the American people not dying.
Just so it's clear, yesterday or 2 days ago, Trump came out and said, we're going to continue the coronavirus protocols relative to social distancing and staying in the house, keeping businesses shut down, etc., until April 30th. So, again, this guy was wrong. They listen to what he says. They don't look at what he actually does. And to say he doesn't listen to his scientists or he doesn't believe in science is another statement that is completely ridiculous. Trump isn't making decisions without input from all the right people in his administration and even outside of the administration. It's ridiculous to think he's making these decisions in a vacuum and he's not listening to the CDC or the NHS or any of the other entities that have experience directly with this thing and with previous pandemics. It's just, wow, Trump derangement, baby. Let's get back to it.
Like, are you crazy? And this is in addition to, like, it isn't just Trump. This is Republican lawmakers in general. You had the lieutenant governor in Texas, Dan Patrick, say that, well, if we got to sacrifice the old people, then we got to sacrifice the old people, and we should all get back to work.
Another thing I've heard from many of the people on the left, and that's not what he said. I watched the interview a couple times. I would make the argument that he shouldn't have said what he said. It wasn't a smart thing to say, but that is not what he said. That is not what he said. What he said is, if sacrificing the future for my grandchildren is not better than old people taking on risk today. In other words, if I have to take on risk, I as a grandparent, so that my grandchildren will have a better life, then I'm willing to do that. Well, you know what? I think anybody is who loves their kids or their grandkids. I think anybody is. I know I certainly am. So again, I don't agree with the way Patrick said it or positioned it, but he did not say that. He did not say, yeah, let's sacrifice the old people to get our economy running. It had nothing to do with the economy, really. It had to do with kids and grandkids and great-grandkids. But again, these people are looking through such a fog they can't see anything. All right, we'll get back to it. I think we're almost done.
Even if you wanted to believe that crazy idea that we should sacrifice the old people and get back to work, this virus isn't just affecting the elderly. It's affecting everybody. It kills everybody. I have a story coming up of a teen that died.
Did you hear that? The story's coming up about a teen that died from the coronavirus. A teenager died from the coronavirus. It's incredible. I just, oh my God, let's shut down the whole world. How many teens die every year from, the flu or chicken pox or measles or malaria or one of any other plethora of diseases? We're not shutting down the country. Oh, God, what an idiot.
It affects everybody, which is why it is so scary. Anybody can be infected, and if you're infected, you can die even if you're incredibly healthy. You have to stay home as much as possible. The only time I'm ever going out now, for the past 2 weeks, the only time I've ever gone out is to get groceries. Otherwise, I've stayed in my apartment. That is what everybody should be doing. Unless unless you work at a grocery store, which, by the way, if you're in an essential service like grocery stores or a doctor, you should be compensated more than what you're currently being compensated for in your job, because you are putting yourself at risk out there working during this. But that aside, unless you work in an essential service, there is no reason for you to be outside every day working or doing anything.
He's right. If you don't work in an essential service, you shouldn't be working. You should be staying in your apartment, because all the bills, they'll magically pay themselves, or the government will pay them for you. I guess maybe that's what he's thinking. But you don't have to worry about your bills. You should just stay in your apartment like he does. Okay.
You should be at home, and the only time you should be going out is to get groceries. That's it. This is a serious thing, and we're not going to get through it as a world until we all take it seriously. Until every single country takes this seriously and people stay home, this is not going away. By the way,
all right, that's wrapped up. He's going to go on and ramble about something else. Somebody said they had to go to work, and he thinks the employer is a murderer or something like that. Not exactly sure, but it's just more ridiculous craziness from this guy, who, as I said in the beginning of the video, he's not a bad person. I'm sure he's a nice guy. I'm sure he would help people where he could, etc. I don't think he's a bad person, but the level of derangement that he and thousands of others have is really destructive. It's really, really destructive to society, to free speech, to our ability to communicate with each other and debate. It's just, it's amazing. He's part of the problem. I'm sure if I went and dug through his videos, I'm sure he praises people like Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff and the rest of the Democrats. And by the way, I would pull out people who do the same on the Republican side as being delusional. There is no difference between a Republican and Democrat. There's establishment and not establishment. And not establishment means you're a regular person trying to get through life. Establishment means you're a political scumbag. I don't care what little letter you have in front of your name, whether it's an R or a D. So anyway, enough said. I'm not sure I can say I hope you enjoyed this, because I'm not sure how enjoyable it was. But I just felt like I had to do it. I'm so sick of this shit from these people, especially, when they don't bother to even do any research or apply any, and I'll use the word, rationality to what they're saying. Everything he's talking about is completely irrational. By the way, he referred to Mediaite as one of his references for something, one of his attacks on Trump. Mediaite is a terrible organization. It's a left-wing fake news organization. It has been since its inception. It has zero integrity. Anybody that listens to what this site says or reads what they post and believes it is, again, deranged, delusional, irrational. This is a terrible site. They may get things right every now and then, like, a dead clock does. But in general, they just come out and make up news to attack the right. They take things out of context. They misdirect. They misinform. It's a terrible site. And as soon as I saw he was referring to Mediaite, I'm like, oh man, this guy doesn't have a clue. But okay, anyway, enough said. I'll see you guys in the next video.